Thank you, Deputy Speaker. If ever we had cause for alarm over cyber security, it was just the other day, 5 November in fact, when The Guardian published an article headed "Is your air fryer spying on you? Concerns over excessive surveillance in smart devices." And the article, penned by UK technology editor Robert Booth, told how air fryers that gather your personal data and audio speakers stuffed with trackers are among examples of smart devices engaged in excessive surveillance, according to the consumer group Which. The organisation, according to this article, tested 3 air fryers, increasingly a staple of British kitchens, each of which requested permission to record audio on the user's phone through a connected app. And the piece went on. Smart air fryers allow cooks to schedule their meal to start cooking before they get home. In this day and age of limited time and people very busy in their lives, it's a great idea. It's smart. It's using technology to meet your busy schedules. Not all air fryers, The Guardian said, have such functionality, but those that do often use an app installed on a smartphone. Now, Which found the app provided by the company Jimmy, connected to trackers for Facebook and a TikTok ad network. And I'll just digress a little. We've been told of the dangers of using TikTok, and any member of Parliament who does use TikTok, I appreciate it's a way of getting through to the younger generation, but it is a folly, absolutely. Your information will be collected and will be sent where you don't need it or want it to. But anyway, the Jimmy fryer and another by Agiostar sent people's personal data to servers in China, although this was flagged in the privacy notice the consumer testing body found. I would defy, Speaker, too many people who actually read the fine print. And if you are like me, once you get a device, you open the packaging, and as many blokes do, the last thing they ever look at is the instructions of how to put it together. They just put it together as best they can, plug it in the wall and hope that it works. Its tests also examined smartwatches that said it required risky phone permissions, in other words, giving invasive access to the consumer's phone through location tracking, audio recording and accessing stored files. And we know that so much of our information is collected. We know that so much of that data is stored. What we don't know is who is doing it and why and what they are going to use it for in the future. And I will recall when I was second in charge of the National Security Committee, some of the hacks that came across, and I'm not giving away state secrets, but some of the hacks that came across the table, and indeed very sophisticated players from certain very large countries were able to infiltrate local councils, large and small, businesses, large and small, in Australia. And this is of great concern, and we should be very worried, getting very prepared and making sure that we do everything we can to solidify our cyber security. In this day and age, the hackers, those players who would otherwise part our money and us, are getting better at what they do. And being able to track you and being able to follow everything that you do online and now through our cooking is indeed a worry. Now, in a response to which, the company said respecting user privacy was among its core values and it adhered to UK data protection laws. Yeah, right. And it claimed it didn't sell any personal information to third parties, but you know, it just beggars belief that why would a company need to store data on an air fryer? Maybe to find out whether you're frying chips or vegetables or what perhaps you're doing, what perhaps you're cooking. You can't be that gullible, and we can't be We can't be having these sorts of devices. If you've got one of those, you're being tracked. And we know that, and we appreciate that, and people should do everything they can to ensure that they are not scammed. I have to say, I had the member for Whitlam, the minister responsible for scams, do a forum in my electorate, and it was a very good thing. A lot of older people attended that. They sometimes are all too often overrepresented in the statistics of those people who have had money taken through nefarious ways and means. And I was appreciative of the minister for coming to Wagga Wagga to share his views and what the government was doing. The government can always do more. I appreciate that. Never before in history has cybersecurity been so important. And wherever you are and whatever you're doing, you're likely to be using in the vicinity of a smart device with connectivity, or in the vicinity of a smart device with connectivity to the internet. It's not just computers and smartphones. We have smart TVs, smart fridges, smart lights, smart cameras, and so much very more. Indeed, a growing number of devices in homes are connected to the internet, including camera-enabled doorbells and, as I mentioned, smart TVs. It's remarkable progress. Who thought that 20 years ago our technology would become as prevalent and perhaps as invasive as it is today? And indeed, iPhones really only go back to 2008. We remember the bricks that some business people used to carry around that used to be mobile phone technology. And you may all be familiar with Apple's Siri, Amazon's Alexa and Google Assistant. Always listening in case you ever have a question to ask. And if you talk about a product or a topic, only to see advertisements then popping up on your internet feed, as though somebody, somewhere, somehow, some way was listening in. Well, of course they are. We know that. We know that for a fact. Every time you use something connected to the internet, your data is being collected, it's being tracked and it's being used. And it's not always by people you should or could trust. Sometimes for good, to improve efficiency and the relevance of search results. Yes, that's correct. But every time this data is collected about you, it can be used for nefarious causes, particularly when data breaches occur and your data gets into the wrong hands. By 2025, cybercrime is estimated to cost the world $10.5 trillion. In Australia, as of 2021, the University of New South Wales estimates cybercrime costs $42 billion. That's $42,000 million to the Australian economy. That's almost equivalent to expenditure in many portfolios, many portfolios, including defence. This is deeply concerning. It's cause for urgent action. And that is why the Coalition does support the policy intent of this package of bills. I note these bills will give the Minister for Home Affairs the power to make mandatory security standards for smart devices. And this is important, this is vital. If our air fryers can be spying on us, who knows what else is? Who would know? This is something the government must have at the forefront of its operations. The people's security is number one priority for government. It's absolutely number one. How many cameras, drones and other devices do government departments use that are manufactured in China? How many? It would be a fascinating answer. Who knows how much confidential data is being collected by foreign actors, foreign players? The Cybersecurity Bill 2024 will also empower the Secretary of the Department of Home Affairs to issue compliance, stop and recall notices in order to enforce the mandatory security standards regime. Not such a bad thing. Well, this is a good start to improve the security of our devices. Even properly managed data can be breached by bad actors. That's why it's important that the government, via the Australian Signals Directorate, is informed of entities that have been subject to a cyber incident. This bill will ensure that entities with more than $3 million annual turnover report cyber incidents to the AST if they've made a ransomware payment or given any other benefit in connection to such an incident. The $3 million cap prevents excessive regulation on small businesses, but it does ensure that larger businesses are more likely to store your data and have the economic capacity to adhere to these regulations. And that's something that perhaps needs looking at. Naturally, some entities may be hesitant to report and provide data to the government for fear of adverse consequences. That's why this package establishes a limited use obligation which restricts how much information provided to the National Cyber Security Coordinator can be used or shared with other government entities. Further, this obligation will also be imposed on the ASD, which will be prevented from communicating such data for the purposes of investigating or enforcing a contravention of a Commonwealth, state or territory law other than a criminal offence against the entity subject to the cyber incident. This enables reports and data supplied are full, are honest, accurate, transparent, enabling the ASD to do its job properly, rather than struggle to obtain accurate data from entities fearful of ancillary consequences. And I have to say we are fortunate in this country to have people who are very qualified in the space of cybersecurity. I know when the 2016 census went a little awry, Alastair McGibbon did a very strong and powerful role. I know the role that the ASD played, and I know just how important this is. And we are very lucky that we have in this nation people in the public service and elsewhere who do their utmost to ensure that the bad guys don't win. As we move into an ever more digitally connected future, it becomes ever more imperative to enact the regulations and frameworks necessary to combat the established and emerging threats of cybercrime. As of 2023, the Australian Trade and Investment Commission reported Australia's tech industry to be worth $167 billion. Now that's having grown by 80% in 5 years, and it's growing at an exponentially fast rate. It is huge. It's also estimated to constitute $250 billion of our gross domestic product by 2030. It's clear Australia must entrench its place on the world stage as a nation which is proactive and a world leader in cyber safety when it comes to digital technology. And I would like to think that whichever party or parties occupy the government benches in Australia, then the same priority, the same importance is placed on cyber security. And I know that the government comes to this place and space with good intent, and I encourage them and acknowledge them for that. It's very clear that Australia is targeted often, all too often, by people, by nations that would want to do us harm. But this bill and other measures will ensure business has the confidence to continue to invest and grow. I have to say I well remember when I was in government and was in Cabinet and was on the National Security Committee. We made the rather controversial decision at the time to not allow Huawei to have the reach that it wanted in Australia, even though they were making big inroads. They were sponsoring the Canberra Raiders National Rugby League team. But why would we want to have a foreign entity with the ability and the capability to do what they could? We can't have our traffic lights, our hospital power systems operated by international players. And whilst I know it was a controversial decision at the time, it was the right course of action to take. It's not just the tech sector that these regulations are relevant to, it's almost every business sector, like a great octopus. Players who want to and need to and feel they want to, they can reach in and take anyone's money, and no one is safe. Nearly every business has a website these days, nearly everybody shops online these days. More and more people are banking online as well. And it is our duty, it is the government's role to ensure ordinary Australians are protected to the best of Australia's ability, the best of government's ability, to protect also not just Australians but industry from cybercrime. That should be the ultimate goal, to keep Australians safe and I appreciate that's what the government is endeavouring to do, and they have the coalition support in just that.